Hello, welcome to another episode on the Lookout. In this week's episode, we're going to be looking at some cards that people aren't really talking about at the moment, some rookies to maybe pick up for your collection or an investment, some surprises maybe. But let's get into the footage. And we'll start off with the NBA, with the playoff finals being set to play as of recording this tomorrow. We've got Victor Wembanyama's 2023 Prism Silver Raw, which is $417, down 53%. Also have that in the PSA 9, pot 575, and the PSA 10, which is pot 1,697. Interesting, both of them are down 60 and 66% respectively. The PSA 9 down to $250, and the PSA 10 now under $1,000 at $999. We also have the SGC 9.5, which is down 58% to $460, and the SGC 10, which is down to $710, down 56%, and the BGS 9.5 down 27% to $861. You know, there's obviously very minimal opportunities. You look at the SGC 10 maybe, that comes back a PSA 10, there's a good couple $100 there to make profit on. The BGS 9 is a bit tighter for profit, and also we don't know it'll come back a 10, we'd hope. You know, it's similar to the SGC 9.5. I mean, the FGC 9.5 comes back at a 10 in PSA, then you'd obviously double your money, but a bit more riskier than you'd think anyway than the SGC 10 and potentially the BGS 9.5. As you can see through the chart for all year, it has been on a bit of a downward decline for Victor. Obviously the hype was big, even though he played well throughout the year. Obviously the Spurs didn't make the playoffs, so a lot less eyes on him. A lot of them went to Anthony Edwards, and now back on obviously Luka, and a bit on Tatum as well. So it's interesting there. There's much sure crossover, but there's still good opportunities to buy, especially the market being so down on the year. This product's coming out. I think Spurs will talk about trading as well to get another first number one pick, which would be interesting. Look at the sales last 30 days, obviously while the playoffs have been on. Majority of the cards down, apart from the SGC 9.5, which is up 2%, which is interesting. Again, not a abundance of sales, with the eyes being more on Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. I mean, look at that. Total sales, as you can see, crazy amount, highs of 18Ks for the PSA 10 and the Raw as well. Massive volume of cards, selling for lots amount of money. We'll look at the number of sales in a second, but it's interesting to see. Look at that, 1,200 sales of the Raw, 444 sales of the PSA 10, 129 sales of the PSA 9. So PSA 9, as we know with PSA, they're the most liquid of grading companies to move, so I always bring up their stuff. Again, just if you can cross over, there is good opportunities, but it's very risky because the SGC 9 comes back a PSA 9, you're at a loss. I mean, PSA 9 is cheaper than Raw at the moment, which is crazy. But interesting look at Victor there for his data. Alright, now we move on to the next generational talent in Connor Bedard. We have his Upper Deck Young Guns base Raw, which is down 60% to $338. His PSA 9 pot 3,076, which is down 63% to $340. The PSA 10, which is a pop 786, down 77% to $807. The SGC 9.5, which is down 58% to $311. SGC 10, which is down 62% to $618. And the BGS 9.5, which is down 76% to $547. So a couple of opportunities there. As you can see with the Raw to PSA 9, $2 in it. SGC 9.5, the SGC 10, and the BGS 9.5, obviously way cheaper than a PSA 10. You'd likely get an SGC 10 to a PSA 10, so there's a couple $100 there. The other two 9.5s from SGC and PGS, a bit more risky. If you do get a 9 for PSA, you are at a big loss. Again, same with Victor. There's a lot of hype at the beginning of the product. It's always first in the market, always makes the more money. You can see the drop off there of the PSA 10 from the beginning of the year, 77%, which is crazy. Just under $3,500 now to $800, which is a crazy drop off. We always talk about being first, and this is what we're looking at today is similar. We're not obviously first now because they've had their years, but we're looking at being, looking at where they aren't, because obviously, Chicago Blackhawks aren't in the NHL playoffs. They're not, not fighting for that Stanley Cup. So a lot of eyes are on Connor Bedard. People aren't really thinking about him, talking about him that much. So look at the sales last 30 days. I mean, it's still a decent amount of sales, but not, nowhere near as much as he was getting a couple of months ago, especially when this product was coming out. Interesting, looking at the money that's gone into him, 60 odd K for the Raw, similar to the PSA 10s as well. So a lot of money invested, which is good to see. That there's money in there, the people are invested in him still, with the hype, and obviously his performances as well. He had a very good sort of rookie season. Interesting with the number of sales, obviously the Raw over 2,000 sales, PSA 9 576 sales, and then the PSA 9 537 sales. Again, we always know this, that PSA sales are going to be a lot more than the SGC or BGS. It's just the, again, more liquid grading company. But again, it shows you how liquid that card is, seeing it's only been out for a few months. A lot of sales, which is good. Let me know your thoughts. Is Bedard someone you'll be getting a few cards off ready for next year? And then last but not least, NFL with CJ Stroud. So we have his Silver Prism Raw, which is $309, down 44%. We have the Silver Prism PSA 9 pop 1,389, down 44% to $286, cheaper than the Raw, which is crazy. We have in the PSA 10 pop 1,155, which is down 57% to $891. SGC 9.5 down 35% to $390. SGC 10 down 9% to $649, and then the BGS 9.5 at $685, which is pretty much flat on. As we've seen with the pattern so far, the SGC 9.5, SGC 10, and BGS 9.5, if they come back at PSA 9, you're at a big loss. If they do convert to a 10, you're going to make a couple $100. It looks like more likely if the SGC 10 is a bit cheaper than the BS 9.5, and with it being a 10, probably you're better risk there. Again, if you can get that up for, if you can get that less for 600, let's say we can get it for $635, $625, you've got a good chance of making a couple $100 if you even sell that for $850, for instance. So, it's obviously on a downward trend because football's not really a thing right now, but you have to act fast to this, because as soon as NBA playoffs finish and NHL playoffs finish, NFL will be back in the sort of stratosphere, especially international. Interesting last 30 days, as you can see, not a great deal of sales, only 2 sales at SGC, for instance. What's interesting is they are on a bit of a rise. The only one down is the Raw of the Silver, which is interesting, down 3%. So again, but that Raw has to be a 10, otherwise you're at a loss. Actually, a lot of sales, decent amount, obviously nowhere near as much as what was in Bedard. It's just a 16k there spike at the beginning when it came out, but as we can see, a lot of people are still interested in Stroud. He had a good season as well. No surprise, 1,200 sales of the Raw. The PSA 9 actually outsold the PSA 10 at 270 sales for the 9 and 259 sales for the 10. Again, very minimal sales for the SGC and the BGS, but again, it's what we sort of know with PSA. It's always going to be more liquid. And that's it for this week's episode on Lookout. I hope the sort of data helped you there, and if you want this data at your fingertips, make sure you go over to marketmoviesapp.com and use code Mahomes for a 14-day free trial and train himself for life. It's interesting, especially with Wembanyama being such a generational sort of talent we talked about, and his prices. Prism Silver, I should have gone for, is obviously more of a liquid card and something's quite easy to attain. The prices are coming down, so now might be the time if you want that for your collection, or again for investment purposes, because it'll definitely move when the NBA season kicks back off again, and if he starts playing well, which judging after this season he could do. Kind of Bedard, another one, generational talent. Had a good year, did have an injury in that season, but again had a very good year, just nowhere near as good as Wembanyama. People have sort of moved on a little bit because of the playoffs, but again the hype will be there again next year. And then last but not least, CJ Stroud. Obviously when it affects his stuff is obviously the fact he doesn't have autos because of the whole contract thing, but his Prism Silver is obviously something that a lot of people are going to be interested in. And again, he had a good season, just added some more pieces to that team over there. You know, we already knew how he was teaming up with Tank Dell, so could be another good season for him. So, you know, again, the season's starting to get there now with training and, you know, the preseason games coming up in 5 weeks. So last time maybe, but yeah, I hope it helped. And let me know if you're going to invest or even pick up some cards to collect. Until next time, peace.